Welcome back. So the Zero Dropout Campaign will showcase the findings of a 4-year pilot project that is aimed at preventing pupils from dropping out of school. The COVID-19 pandemic has been one of the main reasons for South Africa's dropout crisis. Now, the Zero Dropout Campaign's Merle Mansfield believes that schools need to ensure that every learner who was registered before the 2021 academic year began should be accounted for. She joins us now to discuss this further. Merle, a good afternoon to you. Unfortunately, in the context of South Africa, we lose close to half of our learners who enter the schooling system at grade 1. A lot of them don't make it to matric, and that was pre-COVID-19. How bad are those numbers at this stage?
Good afternoon, Aledi, and good afternoon to your viewers. Indeed, we have a serious dropout problem that for a very long time had been a hidden crisis because many of our learners don't make it to matric. However, our kind of measure at the end of the matric year is the percentage of pass, and so not how many learners had made it into that final grade. The way we think about dropout is to say that there's a long preceding process of disengagement that happens within a learner before they eventually drop out of school. And so there's a real opportunity during that process to actually catch learners, respond to learners, and prevent dropout from happening if we are intentionally tracking and tracing our learners and understanding what the engagement level of learners are within our school. Our NIDSCRAM data, the most recent evidence that's come out in the country, which is a survey that was done on the impact of the COVID pandemic, estimated that about 750,000 children hadn't returned to school this year. And so even though we're unclear whether that is a permanent kind of dropout or is it learners who are not returning and are planning to return next year, we know that this tenuous relationship with school and the difficulty that the virus has caused is going to have impacts on how learners are experiencing school and therefore does make the relationship with school precarious.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that I'm looking at, of course, your website, and one of the things that you're punting is the importance of school culture. Because it seems that through this campaign, you really are putting a lot of the responsibility on the schools themselves. Where are we lacking in that regard?
So in fact, we've been saying that really we're needing to have school spaces that are allowing us to, really make sure that we're tracking disengagement. So we want to understand not only how the learner is performing in terms of academics, but also what the learner's engagement level is with school. So are they participating as in I'm attending, or are they participating because they are finding value in the space and so are more likely to stay engaged within the space? And that's the kind of language that we're needing to have in the education sector. Secondly, we've been saying that dropout isn't just, one person's problem, but we've been trying to identify a range of kind of support mechanisms that different stakeholders within a child's life and within the sector can implement.
Yeah.
We believe that schools are a wonderful entry point for that because really it has universal access to all the young people and children within our country. It's a constitutional right to receive education.
Yeah, so
that's the perfect.
Sorry about that, Merle. I'm just stepping in because essentially, I guess what I want to do with the conversation is say perhaps there's a teacher that's watching right now and is wondering, what is my role? Because my understanding is that I am to get in that classroom and pump knowledge into these learners, and yet I am losing pupils. Is there anything that the teachers specifically can do?
So what I love about this question, Aledi, is exactly why we're doing this Action Summit next week, Tuesday, on the 28th of September, is to really talk about what are the strategies and interventions that have worked within school spaces. We've seen some wonderful, innovative things that teachers have done, working with community members, working with parents to create wraparound support for learners so that their intervention in terms of teaching and learning doesn't fall on deaf ears and, so that they are providing kind of that link between home and school in many of the cases. And part of the Action Summit is also to talk about some of the techniques that other stakeholders have used. For example, practitioners or NGOs that work in communities and kind of strategies that schools can implement to track attendance very cautiously, to make use of community volunteers in a very valuable way, to share the burden of finding learners who perhaps aren't coming to school actively or who are struggling because there are other barriers to their attendance, or who are, projecting within the classroom because they are dealing with other difficulties that they're having to navigate within their homes. And so really finding ways into crowd in support for these teachers and for schools, and to make the connections between communities and schools a lot stronger, and the methodologies that actually help prevent dropout from occurring.
Yeah, because it's not just about doing your job, right? It certainly is about adding a layer of active citizenry to the work that you do, and I think that's a great approach. Merle, thank you so much for giving us your time. That's Merle Mansfield from the Zero Dropout Campaign.